mute is off, and we're gonna go in 3, 2, 1, and hi, I'm Tina Chase Gilmore. Welcome to G3. Gosh, we've got our usual suspects today. So I'm glad you found us. If this is your first time here, thanks for being here. We so appreciate your support. If you haven't found our Facebook page, you can find us at facebook.com/G3show. And I will say something about the Facebook page a little later. We have a little bit of a switch going on with the Ustream app, which is not going to be working anymore. They've sort of pulled that. So, okay, without further ado.
Wait, is it a different address?
Hello, ladies. Is it, what? That was Halley. You're asking a question.
I'm asking, is the Ustream a different link or address we need to share with
No,
people?
the Ustream link is fine. It's the same, but the Ustream Facebook app thing is going to be no longer within a day or so. I'm not sure the exact timing on it.
Gotcha.
Hello, Miss Halley Suitt Tucker. Rebecca Woodcock. Hi, Rebecca. Hello.
Wow.
Hallie's got lots of energy today.
I do.
She's cooped up in her house because of sub-freezing weather.
Subarctic weather? Hardly, but cold, cool.
And in my lower right, Mary Hodder. Hi,
Hey,
almost. Hi,
sorry.
Mary.
Sorry, I was trying to adjust my screen because I realized once I could see you that I didn't.
Okay.
I looked a little funny. I have an adjustment. Let me make my adjustment.
Please make your
Okay.
adjustment
Should be better.
now.
Oh, dear.
Oh dear.
Okay,
Sorry.
as
Okay,
Mary's
how's that?
adjusting.
Is that better? There we go.
Oh,
It puts the camera angle at a better angle.
is
Halley.
this the Halley
Halley
Suitt Tucker
This is the
School
Halley fix.
of Broadcasting?
This is the Halley fix. There we go. Sorry about that. I couldn't see myself before, and so I didn't know what I looked like.
You look marvelous, baby.
Actually, I can't see you.
So I have to say, just warn you right now, I have a little bit of a, sniffle. So I'm going to have to blow my nose and mute occasionally.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
a fair warning. Going to happen.
Okay, well, you're going to need a cough switch or a sniffle switch.
I'll use the mute switch. How about that?
That sounds perfect.
Because I like tools that actually work for multiple things. It's like, how people buy kitchen tools and they only work for one thing. Like a garlic press. What the hell? It's like taking up a lot of room in your kitchen.
Yeah.
It does
Get rid of
one
it.
thing. I like a knife because you can press and chop garlic, and you can do other stuff with it too. So the mute button on my Skype does multiple types of muting, not just a sniffle mute.
It can cut out the whole world.
It can mute anything.
Yeah.
Rebecca, can I get a little sound on you?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it could be better.
Okay. I don't know what to do about that.
Okay, well, we'll go with that.
Hey, girls, listen. Tina, I can't see you at all. I don't know what I did.
You can. Oh, okay. I'll fix that, Halley. I'll fix it.
Are you something goofy, like I switched something wrong, or?
No, baby. I'm gonna work it out. I'm gonna work it out.
I upgraded Skype, so just let me terrify you with that news first. So, yeah, something's different.
All right. Okay, now we're getting all of our technical shit together. So I noticed something we talked about on maybe a show ago or 2 shows ago, maybe. We talked about Christian Bale being cast as Steve Jobs in the new Steve Jobs biopic, and he has pulled out of the deal.
Really?
So yeah, so they're going to have to recast, and no real reason as to why, except for what he says is he doesn't think he's right for the part.
Really? I think he's pregnant.
You think he's perfect?
I think he's wrong for the part too.
And Steve Jobs was really
Android
skinny,
fan.
and that'll never fly.
Wait. Is he pregnant?
Possibly, I don't know. It's
Is
just
that
that's why
like
people
a
pull out of
California
projects.
thing? Like,
Or creative conflicts with the director or something like that.
Maybe
That
he's an
could be.
Android fan.
Maybe he is an Android user and they were like, no way, dude, you're out.
That could be. That could be. Maybe somebody rational said, didn't we just have a very unsuccessful Steve Jobs movie?
Well, they haven't killed
yeah,
the movie. They're still going to go forward with that. They're just changing the casting.
Yeah, wasn't there an Ashton Kutcher thing? Like what?
That went nowhere. Yep.
Did they actually release that?
Yeah. That was released.
Yep.
I think they should do Ben Affleck. Because he did the 70s very well in Argo, and because everyone complained about him being in Batman, and now he's all beefed up.
Did you say Ben Affleck or genuflect? Because I'll get on my knees if that's what you said.
How about, genuflect.
Genuflect.
Whoa. What's going on there? Okay.
Wait, that means Jennifer plus Ben Affleck? Is that what that is?
No, well, she's married to him, so... But, I mean, her stage name is Jennifer Garner. I'm sure when she goes to the dry cleaners, they say, yes, Mrs. Affleck.
This is afflicted. What is that with that Affleck? Isn't it?
Affleck? Wait a minute. Let's get this straight.
You guys.
Is it Affleck or Affleck? Or is it... Now I'm confusing it with that insurance company. Affleck.
I don't know.
Actually,
Affleck.
yeah, that was Gilbert Godfrey a long time ago.
He's from Boston. I know his name. And he was just on that awesome new show, Finding Your Roots, and they were talking all about his ancestors. Are you guys watching that?
No.
But I do like that show.
It's incredible. But you got to see it. They just announced the next show, I think, is with Sting, the rock musician, where is it Henry Louis Gates runs the show, tells him, oh, by the way, like all your relatives came from Australia. They were like, thieves, crooks, pirates. And he goes, oh. So, but I hope he writes a song about it.
Okay.
I mean, message in a bottle has a whole new meaning.
I just have to quote John Oliver here.
Those were his relatives trying to escape.
The only thing more boring than an FCC hearing covered on C-SPAN is another song, a concert by Sting.
Come on, wait a minute. This fabulous show.
Oh no.
Sponsor, and the sponsor is Ancestry.com.
Oh wow.
Our Christie's company. But it's actually a pretty fascinating show.
I love that show. I haven't been watching it this season, but I absolutely love that show. It's fun.
Well, it's sort of like that other show they have, Antique Roadshow, but it's like for people. Like it's like this guy in the attic. I want to tell you, I found him. Let me tell you more about him.
Well, have we gotten all of our showbiz stuff out of the way?
Well, this is all just a diversion, so we do not talk politics.
About politics. Well, we promised we weren't going to do that.
We're in a land of no political parties. And by the way, I have a new boss at work. I want to give her a shout out. A woman journalist got a job. Hooray at the Globe, which is, I think, really tough. There's so many men journalists who could have taken that job. So hooray, Janelle. Yeah, Nanos, last name. So she's at JANELLENANOS, and she used to be at Boston Magazine. And it's fun to see how she's going to go from magazine format. They have a month to kind of decide things daily. Eek! It's like, let's go. So I'm glad she's there. And it's
so
great.
she just joined. She's just on board this week or what?
Last week.
Wow. Congratulations.
It's good.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's girls, I get you the inside dope. If you think tech is
make sure
sexist,
it's the good stuff.
Hallie's gonna tell us a secret.
It's so bad to tell you, but if you think tech is sexist and it's hard to get a job in tech as a woman, well, journalism is more sexist and there's no money and no jobs. So it's like you're on the Titanic and they're not saying women and children first, believe me. They're like, they got the life preservers and two guys are fighting over them. Welcome to journalism. Ugh, it's creepy. So stay in good old sexist tech. It's a better place to work.
So why do you
At
think
least
that
we have
is?
money.
Do you think it's that it's the lack of structure, the fact that
It
it's another creative industry where it's very fluid in terms of the organizational structure. Because in my experience, I used to work for lawyers right when I got out of college, and there's a lot of structure. There's the staff, right? So that there's that layer, like legal secretaries and I don't know, the computer guys, and then there's paralegals,
Paris, right?
and then there's lawyers, right? You've passed the bar, and you might be, and then within them there's like associates, and there's senior associates and partners and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the bottom line is you have this structure, and a lot of women succeed in the law.
Right.
Like there's tons of women partners, tons of women lawyers all over the place doing amazing things. And yes, women partners aren't 50-50 compared to male partners, but it's amazing in that industry compared to some of these more fluid, unstructured industries. And I think tech, and you're describing journalism, there's a few other industries where, since there's no structure, the women are just, booted out the door or put in the worst position. I mean, it's pretty awful.
It's really tricky. And I worked in legal too, because when I was in grad school, I went and I worked for lawyers, and I was a legal secretary, and it was structured. There was actually also a lot of work because they had 24/7 in New York City, legal assistants and legal secretaries. So anyway, but I'm happy she got in. I was really thinking, there's so many men who could have taken that job, so I was really excited that she got in.
Well, on a kind of a similar note, we saw this week that a Blogger was acquired by a company called She Knows?
She knows.
She knows it, I thought. Isn't it?
I don't know.
Maybe not. Okay.
Anybody else can... I think it's I thought it was She Knows.
I think it is She Knows.
So what I found kind of interesting was that there was very little, if not, I think actually no tech press about the acquisition. Nothing.
Yep.
And I thought, well, maybe I just caught it early, and no one else had written about it yet, and I waited and I waited, and I thought, I waited a day. Oh, this isn't right. So what's going on with that? That's kind of strange to me.
I think there's actually a few issues. One is that in my opinion, and I actually was an advisor for BlogHer the first 2 years. I helped them get several of their speakers the first 2 years of the conference. They weren't incorporated. I think they incorporated for the conference, but they didn't develop the advertising network that they have now for the first 2 years. Then they went out and got funding, and they took funding. Shoot, I'm blanking on the name of it. It's a Sand Hill Road firm. It's actually I think it's a partnership that's focused in Boston and Sand Hill Road. Anyway, I met with their partner when I was looking for funding one time. And, I think, so they went the venture route. They did take a bunch of funding, and I don't think that they got bought for so much that this is really more than a break-even style exit, probably for the funders and the founders. It's not like they got, this isn't like Flickr, where Flickr sold for $35 million approximately to Yahoo, but they'd only taken $1 million in angel funding, so it was a great exit for the funders and the founders, and everybody got a bunch of money. This is one of those things where I think it's more break even, where the funders probably got paid back. The founders probably get some new stock. But the thing that I noticed about BlogHer was, after that initial 2 years, they were very secretive about what they did. They never wanted to promote the ad network, but if you attended the conferences, you were massively blasted with a lot of advertising and promotion. I mean, I remember being at one of their conferences where the lunch was sponsored by some sort of pasta company, and every course had pasta, and they would come out and talk to us for 10 minutes about pasta while we ate. I mean, it was creepy, to be honest. In fact, I told them I'm like, this is ridiculous. It's way too much.
Stop the pasta.
Well, stop the talking to us about it. And then, could we only do one course of pasta, please? Like, how about a salad, or how about some other stuff? Anyway, So I think that they were, the conferences had a particular focus that was very advertising and, sponsorship oriented, sometimes a bit too much. And then they also had this issue where the ad network was a bit hidden. Frankly, the conferences were meant to be a place where they would attract content writers, bloggers, to come in, meet their community, and then sign up with the ad network and use the BlogHer ad network. And as we've seen with, for example, Federated Media and other blog ad networks, there's value, right? And they can certainly make money for the blogger and they can make money themselves. But when you take venture money, you're taking it to build infrastructure. You ought to be, right? So you've already got some traction. You take this money and you're supposed to be turning it into a whole lot more money, like 10x, 20x, 50x more money.
I have the money. Can I just say one thing quick? They did. They saw. This is from TechCrunch. They did Venrock Capital in June of 2007, and then also did a Series B for $5 million. And the first was $3.5 million. The second Series B round was $5 million from Peacock Equity, which is a fund run by NBC, Universal, and GE, together with Venrock. And I'm not seeing if they had more money after that. But anyway, and the exit was $30 to $40 million.
Right.
They had a C round also.
Most term sheets are written in such a way that, so let's say they had a total of $15 million in funding. Most term sheets are written so that the funders have preferred shares and they do 3x return off the top. So in this case, my guess is that basically they paid back the funders and the founders were converted into shares that are at the new company, and now they have a vesting period and they'll get shares from those guys. But I would imagine that the founders, they might have gotten a little bit of a payoff, $500,000 or something, like go buy a house or something. But
so here's a question, which with a female, with a group that's run by women, gets almost no press, and then we talk about it and we put it against the same level of scrutiny as we would a male deal. So are we giving them a boost to like rip it apart and talk about them honestly as it's not a big deal, or as women talking about women founders, should we be giving them a little more benefit of the doubt? What do you think?
I think it's a company. You just look at the company deal. I'm trying to explain the deal part of it. I don't feel like we're ripping it apart.
Though, is an acquisition, whether it's an acquisition for that's got a high return or not for the investors. An acquisition that's a break even is still news. The point is that it wasn't talked about at all.
Yeah, I think that's really something.
But
Rebecca, what do you think?
Happened,
I think that maybe they just didn't promote it. A lot of times the founders, whatever happens, if it's an acquisition or not, they'll spin it somehow or send some sort of press release to, or even talk to the tech blogs. But and I did read it somewhere, but the thing, how TechCrunch and VentureBeat work, if they don't have the exclusive, they're not really going to cover it. And I think they just maybe released it to some other news agency and didn't want to make a big deal out of it. And so that's probably why we didn't hear about it. Because if they don't get the scoop at these other tech-specific blogs, they just really don't want to cover it.
Well, I think Ad Age covered it.
Who did?
Yeah, because they're an advertising network, which makes sense.
Yeah, which makes sense.
It's an ad network. They're an ad network. The thing that I wondered, because I noticed
with
similar,
the Boston
that
Globe,
they weren't getting the coverage.
Go ahead, Mary. Go on.
I said the thing that I noticed, because I saw the same thing, they weren't getting a lot of tech coverage, TechCrunch, VentureBeat, whatever, Read Write Web, was that I wondered, Lisa Stone, who's their CEO, has never really gone out and cultivated any of those entities. In fact, she's extremely quiet. She's not a Facebook user. She doesn't really use any social media, and she never did. And her blog posts are extremely, she comes out of old media, like the magazine industry in Manhattan, kind of old media, and she's very controlled, and her words are very controlled. And I think that old style. It's not appealing to the tech press who all functions in the new way. For better or for worse, it seems that was kind of my interpretation, that because they don't know her and they find it very off-putting, that language, they just ignored it.
Yeah, probably.
I wonder.
Well, she's from the Valley here, right? So I mean, I still find it kind of odd. I think they do know her. I think that's not totally
they
true.
know who she is, but they don't know her day to day online. She's not like other tech CEOs who tweet every day about I don't know what, and or who check in on Foursquare. She doesn't use anything really.
That's
very
how
little.
can you be a media company and not use social media?
That's
well,
the thing
I
wonder.
think there was a certain suspicion about her. I've always wondered, like, you're the CEO of a media company. How do you do that and not use the tools?
But Alyssa, wouldn't you say Alyssa is much more involved in our social networks? So I hear from Alyssa and read stuff about her all the time too. But
so I see Alyssa every day on Facebook.
Right.
And I think that there was a certain amount of the community that they were cultivating in the very beginning. After, and I think that point that you were talking about, Mary, around the 2-year, 3-year mark, kind of started to walk away from them.
Yeah.
The tried and true, and then and I heard a lot of people sort of complaining about the events. It was like, oh, so much advertising, oh, so much marketing, oh, so much what I wasn't signing up for.
Right. Well, and the other thing is the attendees really shifted. I went, a couple of years in a row, and what I noticed was that early adopter blogging crowd, which also tended to be an early adopter, just general tech crowd, they kind of left. I kind of left it because the crowd became not my crowd. It was full of mommy bloggers. It's just not my area of interest. It became, some other topics that are very women-oriented, kind of think women magazine types of themes. I remember walking up to a woman at a conference.
It became broader, right?
It became broader, but also very focused on those topic areas that you would typically find in women's magazines. I remember walking up to a group of women, and Deb Schultz was there. And she said, oh, I want to introduce you to these two women. They're marketers. They're in marketing at like some Condé Nast magazines or something. And I said, sure. And they said, what do you do? And I said, I'm the founder and CEO of a video search and metadata company. We're here in the Valley, blah, blah, blah. This is where we're at. We've just launched, blah, blah, blah. And they literally just looked at me like, you're a freak because you're a geek. And they turned around, didn't say a word, and walked away. And that's when I was like, okay, I don't think this conference is for me anymore.
Wow.
Rebecca, do you think there is that division between women geeks and other women? Or what are we describing?
I don't know. I mean, I guess so. I can't really speak to that. I mean, in this area, I wouldn't necessarily see that. But
a lot has shifted, don't you think, over the past 10 years? I mean, 10 years ago, we're talking 04, 05, 06.
Yeah.
Being geeky was for guys or the women who were geeky. It was just like, you're weird, go away for mainstream women. But now, geeky is sexy.
Blog. Well, you had to be a little bit geeky to blog back then. Now, just everybody knows how to do it. So you have a lot of mommy bloggers, a lot of food bloggers. That's really all I see on Blogger.
A lot of people. Well, now, but I think you nailed it. Is that we all do it now in various ways. If we just have a Facebook account, we're blogging, right? Or I get posting or whatever you want to call it. And back then it was it was kind of an introduction. It was like welcoming women into this world, and probably pretty comforting. And at this point, maybe, I don't know. It's the focus has shifted, right? It's
right. Well, I have a thing. I was, I had put a bit of stuff up about conferences because there's the big Dublin conference going on now. And I was thinking about the Blog Her conference, and the division isn't necessarily women's conference, men's, but I think there is now, there's a lot of divisions, and the Dublin conference seems typically tech oriented, very male oriented. And I don't want to get into the whole gender gap discussion, but there's also, when many of us were going to the conferences early on, I posted a picture of you and me, Mary, at the Web conference that is now, was Blog then, or whatever it was. It was a while ago. And those conferences were times for people to get together who, there was like 200 of us, right? There were so few starting this thing, and we would be scattered all over, and we wanted to come together, and sometimes it was just to meet one another. Now these conferences, if it was 200 bloggers at Le Web 10 years ago, it is, it's something like 200,000 attendees now. And I find that conferences on that scale are driving me crazy. I don't know why anybody goes. I can't stand those kind of, I don't know. It's ridiculous at this point.
It's not an intimate conversation, is what you're saying.
At all.
So at Le Blog, which was the first Le Web.
Rebecca, go ahead.
Well, the quality of the attendees also, it also goes lower the more people you in. And that was actually one of the comments from a VC friend of mine about TechCrunch Disrupt recently, is that it's really not worth it anymore, because at one time the quality of the people there was a little bit more exclusive. It was a little bit more, the actual people you wanted to meet were there. And it's just not like that anymore. They've expanded it. They let too many people in, too many startups that aren't really even fundable. And so therefore it's lost its value, except to AOL, which, they see it as a way to make money on sponsorships, which is how you make money on events, and tickets. So the more you let in, I guess the more money you make. The more eyeballs your sponsors
completely. Yeah. And Mary, where do you think we could go to connect with the people that we knew in those days who were leaders in the field? It's
Mary's
like
house.
Yeah.
Over dinner.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's true. Tonight I'm actually having over some entrepreneurs and I'm making dinner. There's a thing going on the stove.
What are you making?
What are you making, Mary?
What am I making? I'm making pork verde.
Huh?
So it's pork verde. So it's pork stew, pieces of pork shoulder, and then in the summer when it's peak season, at the farmer's market I buy a case of poblano chilies, and I roast them and freeze them, and so then I have like 8 of these packages, and I just get them out during the winter and make chicken verde, pork verde. Exactly. It's like we're all dancing around because it's spicy and it's yummy. Anyway, so that's what's going on.
I'm coming. I want to come over.
But as far as where to go, I agree with you. I mean, the problem is now, so you have South by Southwest. That used to be, 500 people. And now it's 25,000 people or something just for interactive. It's way too much. I can't. You can't even get into the sessions that you want to go to.
I'm sorry. Do you think these conferences sort of just jump the shark, or is it that in person isn't what it used to be?
No,
is it still critical?
In person is everything.
Is critical. It just who do you want to be in person with?
And are they going to be there?
The ones that are at the conference anymore. It's all about the quality. It still goes back to that. And I find I don't even really go to conferences anymore because I don't get the value out of it. Unless I'm speaking on stage, that's the only value that I get from a conference. And I'm probably not going to go unless they give me a free ticket.
Even then, even then, I'm finding it's not worth it. Now, I wrote kind of a silly piece about Girls' Guide to Conferences, what not to do. Don't drink. Don't smoke or use drugs in a foreign country. Are you an idiot? I mean, do I have to say that? Don't sleep with anybody. Bring a stuffed animal, please. Okay, have a group of your own
So-
friends you hang out with. Have your own schedule. Have your own objective. Like, there's 3 people I actually want to meet. I feel like if I meet the people I want to meet, I'm out of there. I don't know if you read my other list, but come on.
Those
It's-
people
and
aren't going
The
to be
old
there.
conferences that used to be really good were South by, because with 500 people, I mean, you didn't have to be at the event. You could just be walking up Congress, going to a restaurant,
Right.
and you'd run into. I mean, I remember doing this in, 2005, 6, 7, 8, when it was still little, walking up the street, and I'm with a little group of people, and we're going to a restaurant, and we see 5 people that I know, and I have to stop and talk to each one of them and make a plan to get together with them. Are you going to this party? Are you going to that party? Okay, so we'll check in there. But the thing is that it wasn't just 3 people that you could hang out with. You could hang out with 50 people over 4 days and actually spend quality time with them and exchange ideas and have, a really fruitful, I got funding there for startup. I did various things there that were really useful. Another one that was a good filter was eTech, which was the old O'Reilly conference.
Right, which is gone. Right?
Which is long gone, and actually it's because they tried to compete with South by Southwest, which was really not smart.
Stupid.
And then, there was the Web 2.0 Summit,
Right.
which was another O'Reilly John Battelle thing. And the early on aspect of that conference was really interesting, and it was very limited. I went to almost all of them until like the last 2. And then the last 2 were just big sponsorship fests, and I'm happy that they made a lot of money because, great, but
Okay,
whatever.
so
It's not interesting for me.
if the conferences aren't doing it for you, and if it takes so much for you folks to brush your hair and put on your walking shoes and go attend one, you need some enticements. So what do we need? I mean, if you can't go to a conference and meet the people that you want to meet, what are you doing?
Rebecca, what would your perfect conference be?
I don't know. I would say the way Disrupt was maybe 5 or 6 years ago. I would say 6 years ago, where all the right people were there. They were accessible. They were around. Now, if you want to meet the right people, so Halley, you said, you bring the list of 3 people you want to meet.
Right.
That's even impossible, because if you want to meet the right people, those people are likely to be speakers or whatever it is. They're getting in through the back door, going straight on stage, and then exiting as soon as they're done. They're not mingling. Like, the conference is really useful or useless when it comes to meeting people like that.
Right.
You need to really just leverage your network.
Yeah.
And
but I would say
it's more about the private situations, like at Mary's house, like.
But the thing, so
It's
Howard
not a
brings up a really
conference
good point.
anymore.
When we went to Le Blog in Paris, so there were about 200 people at the conference, but there were about 40 people that hung out. So we had Nick Denton, we had Katarina Fake, Stuart Butterfield, Mike Arrington, Doc Searles, Halley, me.
Perfect example.
There were, I don't know. And I remember the woman who runs Nick Denton's company, who's also his partner, personal partner. She is amazing. Gabby something. And she actually told great stories. She was incredible. The thing about a conference like that, so you're in Paris, because people have to fly a long way, we all hung out. We all had like practically breakfast, lunch, and dinner together. And then stayed out till 3 a.m. at some bar telling crazy stories. And the thing is that you really get to spend the time. But if you go to a conference where you already live or sort of near, like Silicon Valley, I mean, I went to all the early Disrupt events as well, and I liked them, but I did find that people kind of buzzed in and out. I was buzzing in and out because I had a lot of stuff to do. It's not as useful, but at the same time, you want a small filtered group that's really high value. Joey Ito was there. I'm trying to think of the other people in the Paris thing.
So people need to be capped. So the best conference would be, let me posit this, on a cruise ship that you can't get off of in the middle of some nice hot weather.
Yeah, for like 2 days. That would be perfect. Because
Yeah.
then you get
And no
enough
one
time
gets to
talk everyone.
helicopter in and out.
And no
So
helicoptering
here's
in
the
and out.
deal.
Has
The
anyone
thing
been to
is,
Summit Series?
Hang on,
Sorry.
hang on. Rebecca, what?
So Summit Series does something differently. It's a little bit like that. I only went to one event because they're terribly expensive. And again, I got a scholarship for my ticket sponsored by somebody. Otherwise, I really can't make that judgment to go. But it is a lot of people. It's a couple thousand, I think. But a lot of it is really, really high quality. And the interesting thing that they do is they bring in a lot of people from different industries. So you see top people from tech, and then other top people from Hollywood, and other top people from different industries. And it's just a really interesting mingling. And so when I went, it was on a mountaintop in Utah. We were all pretty much camping.
Which event is this?
It's called Summit Outside.
Okay.
And
This
that
is the
was
one that costs
interesting.
like $3,000 to attend, and then you got to camp and get your own food or something like that. Isn't that the deal?
They provide
You have to forage for your own food.
No, but
they provide your food. I mean, you're on a mountain, and they actually have really high quality chefs and makeshift restaurants that they also create out of tents. But yeah, it's expensive, and I normally wouldn't go because I'm just I'm very conservative about cash. But if I had extra cash and I wanted to really get some high quality and good entertainment, I might consider spending the money on that. But as it is, I don't go because I'm terribly conservative on cash. But I would say they had a ton of events. It was a lot more about the experiences, and so they had workshops all day long of different things that you might want to talk about. Everything from birds of prey to how to start a fire in the woods, or even book talks.
The real survival for
interests.
startups. How to start a fire in the woods.
So they would have different tracks about startups or even the music industry or whatever it is. Just very interesting, rich content.
This sounds like early TED. This is what TED conference before it was video was. And I mean, maybe we're just talking about, well, first, I used to organize conferences at Harvard Business School Publishing that was around Harvard professors and their thoughts on innovation and the whole 9 yards. And they would be small. So the reality is the money is that if you have a small conference, you're not making money and it's more interesting. People are learning more things. You have access to smart people closer up because there's so few people. And you make no money, or you do these gigantic Roman orgy conferences, and they're making tons of money, and you're not talking to anybody. It can't be exclusive. The actual exclusive group of people to hang out with are speakers or not speakers. So if you're a speaker, and even they do just what you guys were talking about, is they buzz in and out, and they're there for 20 minutes and do their speech or 40, and then they leave. So it's very lacking in the intimacy that we had, and we used conferences to learn things from each other and inspire one another, and that is what's so sorely missing. Now it's see and be seen, la-di-da, and, here's the photo. I mean, remember, you could sneak around and sleep with somebody. Nobody took any pictures. That was good. Now
bring back the good old days.
Really?
The interesting thing about this one summit on the mountain in Utah is there was no cell phone reception, so there was no tweeting and no Facebook posting. So it was very it was all about the experiences and letting you have those deep experiences while you were there for the 3 days. And it was 3 days long. You were there for that time.
Wasn't there recently a Silicon Valley sort of unplugged conference where people were zip lining and shit like that?
That
Are
sounds
you
fun.
thinking of Yes by Yes Yes?
Yes, I think I am.
Okay,
yes,
so
yes,
yes
by
by
yes.
yes.
I don't know.
So I've been invited to that, and I'm on the list on Facebook and stuff. But I have to tell you, so it's in Palm Springs, It's something in the neighborhood of like July 11, 12, 13 or something, whatever. So my cousin lives in Palm Springs, and she's actually a VP of sales at a huge hotel. And I showed her what they had put together, and she just started laughing because, first of all, she said, the Ace Hotel where they hold it is charging each attendee like an extra $200 plus requiring them to agree to order all their food from the hotel and then stay there. And then the hotel prices themselves are also inflated. And it's July when the entirety of Palm Springs can't get anyone to stay in their hotels. You know why? Because it's 110 degrees outside. And then when they overflow the rooms for Yes by Yes Yes, they send them down the street. And they're like, oh, it's only a 2-block walk. Well, that 2 blocks could kill you, like no joke. And so I suggested to the organizers, because having been there a few times and visited my cousin, I was like, even when I go there in October and April, like, there's some serious considerations around, heat stroke and heat exhaustion. You guys need to post some information for what people should do. Mm-hmm. You need to help people with little kids. You need to, because a lot of people do bring their kids. But basically they blew me off. They're like, we don't care. This is ridiculous. Of course it's not going to be that hot. Then it was that hot. And they just never said anything about it. But they have continued to they did it this past summer. They're doing it next summer. I think it's great, except that it's like moving Le Web to December in Paris.
Exactly.
Who the hell wants to go to December in Paris?
Can I talk about that?
Who wants to go to Palm Springs in the summer? It's crazy. It's still the off season.
Okay. Halley, go ahead.
Il faut que je parle à propos de le web. Dans le mois de décembre, c'est tout à fait dingue, quoi. C'est tout à fait imbécile. In other words, the idea that they had a goofy Le Web, which is no longer actually owned by, don't tell anybody, Geraldine and Loïc Lemur. So it's run by some other people.
Because I knew it was up for sale for years.
Common knowledge.
It's not also in the worst... It's in the worst month of the year in Paris, and it's in the worst location in Paris, in the goddamn 800th arrondissement that nobody can get to.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That's true.
Well, they used to have it.
Rebecca, you remember that?
Like in the 6th.
I remember that. Yeah.
and
it's
the
horrible,
thing is, no one wants to go there then. But I did know that Loic and Geraldine, they've had it for sale for years, I think, and then they finally sold it.
Yeah, they sold it a couple years ago.
Did they?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, it's just...
I believe that they're still working it, but they sold it. Yeah.
Yeah.
What else
and good
would
for
they do
them.
if they didn't do that?
What's that?
I said, what else would they do if they didn't do that?
Listen, didn't it get snowed in one year? Wasn't it snowed in?
No.
Where you got 1 year, it was so bad, the weather. I thought I had like a blizzard.
Really?
You guys weren't there that year?
Rebecca, when were you there in December or November?
Oh, it was December.
Yeah, I think so.
It was 2009 though. That was quite a while ago.
Yeah. Wow.
2009.
I was there last year. I went last year.
Jeez, time flies.
I was there last year. I was there the first year. I've been there about 3 times, but
okay, well, I think what we have to do is we have to put a list together of what are the features for an ideal conference? What do people need to get out of it? And where would it be? Because I think, if you can't meet the people who you want to meet and you're not getting what you better be in a goddamn nice place.
Hey, I have my sisters on Facebook. She said, this is like a conference. This is why.
Well,
I was
gonna say that this type of technology can definitely, with some added tools, can be that. It can be instructional. It can be, you can create relationships. You can do a lot of things that you maybe even can't do in the real life, so to speak, conferences. So
I don't know.
Maybe we need to think about that.
I think face-to-face is still really important. You just, you connect with somebody on a different level when you are there in front of each other, and you can read each other. And I don't know, you can bond and make a connection or figure out if you don't like someone also. There's just that read that you can get on people that you can't get through the internet.
I think the ideal is some sort of hybrid where you can do those things and these things.
That's
the virtual and the real life. I mean, you don't have all of it all the time, but you have some of it some of the time.
Are you planning something, Tina?
I'm not saying.
Hey, do you remember, I think, Mary, we were at South by Southwest and I jumped in somebody's pink car and you took a picture of me? It was like a convertible.
Had to be a pink car.
Do you remember I had my pink car? But do you remember that picture?
Open the doors. Open the doors to your Cadillac. Come on.
I can open the door. Do you want to drive? You drive. Okay.
Let us in.
That's the driver's
seat. Here we go.
And
there we go.
I'll get in on the passenger side.
Actually, that is so
my husband
cute.
gave me this as a...
Do you know what year that is?
I don't know. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe you can guess.
I can't. Oh, 1953.
I think so. So it says it.
I think my dad worked on an assembly line for a year once. Well, maybe around no, probably earlier. Okay. Wow.
Well, can I say one last thing?
Tick, tick, tick. Time is ticking. And any other thoughts about some tech stuff that's been going on? Microsoft announced something I think is kind of interesting, and I wonder. I'm sure it's going to snooze you guys.
My teapot.
That they are making Office free for iPad, iPhone, and Android. Their mobile versions, and without needing a 365 subscription.
Why do you think?
I think they've actually been making some interesting partnerships and relationships lately.
But who uses Office?
Well,
a lot of people do.
You're going to make me
the government, some old companies that are boring and obsolete, whatever. I mean, nobody that I work with except government people use Office. It's just not, it's obsolete.
Lawyers use it.
It's kind of like the gasoline car. It's obsolete, but we're still driving them.
The healthcare industry, which is a $3 trillion industry, probably the largest in the U.S., they all still use very antiquated technologies. No one's on a Mac there.
Yeah.
And, finance, all these big industries that we're kind of locked away from because we're in a bubble.
Yeah. I think we can get blinders on us sometimes and just, but there's a lot of the world, I think, that's still using Office products, and the fact that it's recognizing that mobile is it, and that it's made it much more accessible to use now. Well, I think it's kind of interesting. I mean, I think that these are decisions that are going in a very positive direction for Microsoft. They still have a lot of hurdles to get over. They certainly ain't what they used to be.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Anything else?
About technology?
About
About
whatever. You want to talk
anything?
about flowers? I don't care.
Well,
Hey,
I can
one thing I
tell you
wanted
about the
to
event that I went
mention-
to last night.
Hey, wait. Halley, what?
I wanted to mention Angel List, and if you guys have been seeing Angel List, and if anybody's on it, and if you raised any money on it, and it was...
Why don't you tell us what it is and give us a little rundown?
Okay, so Angel List, I wrote a little thing on it here. It's a website where you can enroll as either an entrepreneur who needs money or you're an angel who wants to fund a company. And it's just doing very big business and cutting out a lot of lawyers and accountants around getting funding. And it was brought to my attention by a VC that I know saying it's like the big place you should be if you're starting a company, you need some funding. So I wanted to know if that's what you guys have been hearing. And I think Rebecca had been at, the guys were at Disrupt, right? Did you hear them at the Disrupt conference? Back to speaking about conferences, God forbid. Did you hear their pitch about AngelList?
Well, so I've been aware of AngelList for quite some time. Actually, when Cake Health launched in 2011, we became and still remain to this day, the top introed and followed healthcare company on AngelList.
Great.
So we leveraged AngelList quite a bit. We were very smart about it on how to use it. And actually, it did create a lot of momentum in addition to the other things that we were doing in increasing the volume of introductions to investors. Now, back then, they didn't actually have the platform to facilitate the investment. But I think it's really interesting and a big trend in the whole crowdfunding ecosystem now that the government rules have changed. And I wish Denise were here because she could probably talk about this a little bit more.
We miss Denise.
Yeah, but the rules have actually changed on how you can gather funding. And that's why you're seeing these syndicates and a lot more people being able to actually commit money on AngelList because it's sort of crowdsourcing capital for startups now. And that's entirely new. They got ahead of the game when they first started and a lot to influence the policy with angel investors on their side to convince the government to change its policies. And so it's really opened up a lot of doors. I think it's really interesting. And it's a bigger trend that I think we'll see a lot more companies trying to replicate or not only replicate what AngelList is doing, but take it to another level. Where you build a startup online instead of just getting your startup funded online.
And have you been happy with what you got from it?
So, I think because it was a little bit different back then, I wonder how it could have helped. It would have been more help today had they been able to facilitate the transaction, because still that was really the most difficult pain point to manage. And what you were talking about with all the documents and the legal fees and this and that was really, really, it's a process that is so laborious. And
they changed that.
I got some really good traction from AngelList. Absolutely. I would do it over again if given the opportunity. And I probably would get better results today based on what they've built out since.
Right.
But yeah, I definitely was pleased with it. It was a combination of strategy and luck, and it really allowed a lot of snowballing momentum for us.
Good.
Mary, have you had any experience with it?
Yeah, I was invited into it, I think, in the beginning, and I did play with it and occasionally go on it. But I'm not real familiar with the extended features or anything that they've built out. I've used it occasionally to look up different things, and then I'll go out directly to those people and talk with them about different things. So, it just depends.
More as a resource then?
Yeah, I just kind of use it as a resource.
I think the interesting thing about what they've done, and I have yet to really play around with this, is, on Kickstarter, for example, you can just put in a little bit of money into projects that you can fund. Right. But traditionally, investing in startups has been out of reach for most people.
Right.
But if you are an accredited investor, which, you have to go through any checklist of things to be accredited investor, but I don't know, we could probably qualify any three of us, four of us.
Actually, I think the minimum is that you have to have $1 million in personal assets.
Yeah, that is
I'm
true.
out.
That is true.
That's the main one, I think.
Or if you're a CEO of a company.
Right.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So in that sense, yes. I mean,
and so what they've done is allowed easier access for people and angels and potential funders to commit smaller dollar amounts, even I think as little as $1,000, something like that. So whereas investing in startups has traditionally been really out of reach for a lot of people,
right,
it's only somewhat out of reach now.
Well, it was more typically.
Accessible.
Wasn't it more typically you had to have 10 to 25K to put into any given deal? But I understand from I think I understand from the AngelList syndicate idea, there's a leader who puts down a certain amount and you can choose to put a small amount with that person. So it's worth checking out. I mean, the person that recommended to me is very well-known VC, and when he's saying this is seriously changing the business, I'm listening.
Well, it is part of it is, I think, the rules change. So, Halley, you should talk with this guy who I recommended to you. I introduced you to about a week and a half ago. He's the CEO of the Trade Association for Crowdfunding.
Okay.
That was that guy last week. They also participated in the rules making and rules change with the SEC because as the trade association that has all the crowdfunding companies as members, they could go in and really talk about, like, here's how crowdfunding works. Here's what's really happening kind of in terms of the data behind the scenes, and basically represent, and they had a lot to say with the SEC about the actual language. The guy's a lawyer. I totally recommend that you chat with him.
Okay.
I think he would be, and he's based in Boston, so you could do an article on him. He's a tech guy in Boston. Yeah.
Okay, I love the guy.
Hope to see an article about him soon. I thought he was very smart, very good, and in fact, he gave me a couple of recommendations about. So I'm trying to fund 2 little businesses right now. They're not tech businesses, but I'm trying to help them get funded. Mm-hmm. And he had some suggestions about ways that we could do this and what we could do. And then he also had information about specific tech crowdfunding, to do with the SEC rules changes. He's very knowledgeable. Totally recommend it. Can't remember his name.
We've got our
buddy. But you've got the intro.
We got our buddy Francine telling us an accredited investor is $200K a year's salary or net worth $1 million. On AngelList, the syndicates are often $25K minimum. Francine's on as an investor. I don't know if she wanted that public, but too late now. Sorry.
Cat's out of the bag, Francine.
That's right. And she's also mentioned that the SEC is dragging. Huh?
I don't know that Francine is particularly shy about that. Sorry, Francine, if I'm speaking for you.
I'm gonna say she's fine with it.
Okay, good. Well, thank you.
I'll take the heat.
Thanks, Francine, for the clarification.
Yes.
Exactly. So, are we close to done? I'm having too much fun. Whenever I'm having fun, I know we're almost done.
Yeah, that's. Well, you gotta leave wanting more.
So I would love to share the thing that I went to last night.
Okay, sort of quick, because then we gotta
go. Because then I gotta go too. So last night I went to this thing. Let's see, Keith Tier was there, who's on the other Gilmore Gang show. There were Lisa Petrids, who does the Big Ideas Conference in the fall in December in Half Moon Bay. So the event was Andrew Keene's PBS show, which I think he does.
Another former Gilmore Ganger also.
Yes,
and he talks about he will coalesce around a topic and then interview somebody, but then get people in the room who know about that topic and get them to speak. Sylvia Paul was there. I don't know, there were just a bunch of different folks. So the topic was education, and he had the main interviewee was the guy from oh darn it. Now I'm blanking on the name. I just told you before the show.
It was Draper Fisher Jurvetson?
Well, they had Tim Draper, but it was the guy from Udacity. Okay.
Yes.
So they had the Udacity guy there. He's a
Don Draper was there?
No.
I wish.
Tim Draper. And then Tim Draper has Draper University. And then other folks in the room, were there from Stanford. So Andreas Weigland, who is a professor, I think he's a part-time professor at Stanford, and then he brought a Stanford student. Some other people brought students, and so it was a really interesting discussion about tech and the MOOCs, the massively online courseware that different universities have experimented with, and then of course Udacity and Draper University, I think both use, and then discussions about the value of getting a college education and masters and PhDs, and it was a very interesting discussion. But the thing that I kind of came away with is that the people who are experimenting with this, education is very, very expensive, and I get that. But the people, a couple of these folks who are experimenting, like Tim Draper and the Udacity guy, they're basically going out and saying, well, I mean, we may not be educators, right? But we went to college. And so let's just either raise a bunch of money or make a few billion.
And that makes us experts.
And that makes us experts. So yeah, I'm sure that they've hired people who are education experts, right? Maybe they haven't, but it would be really dumb not to. But let's assume that they have. But still, the level of the conversation last night was, to me, really disturbing, because it assumed a very white, very privileged group that they were focusing on educating. I mean, I know Udacity is more broad, and Draper University, Tim Draper kept saying, we're here to educate heroes. And I'm thinking, well, what's a hero to you? Because a hero in Silicon Valley is the guy with the most money, and that's not a hero. That is not a hero at all, right? I mean, there was so much hubris about, what is education for? Sylvia Paul made a great remark where she said, look, education is not about getting a job. Education is about, you learning how to learn, and she didn't use that language, that's my language, but you understanding yourself and the world through 2,000 years of pedagogy and figuring out how to create a satisfying life. And so the Udacity guy and the Tim Draper lines were a lot about, like, we're here to help you get a job. And I think it's this very practical view of Silicon Valley, like, let's just put the widgets together and then we can sell this thing and then these people will pop out and then AT&T will hire them. We were in the AT&T foundry. So, of course, the AT&T people were there saying, oh, yes, we'll, of course, hire these people, blah, blah, blah. But, I mean, it felt incredibly privileged and just like this situation where the philanthropists, instead of paying taxes, they're diverting money into their philanthropic, Bill Gates. I don't know, how much money has he put? 60 billion, 100 billion into Gates Foundation. Okay, that's awesome. But if he paid taxes, the money would have been spread across a lot of other things. But he just puts it into stuff he cares about, and it's very myopic. And it only helps a few people with the specific issue. And I felt like that was the sort of thing I was listening to about education last night. We want to help just the people we like and not the other people get an education. We want to help them. We want to force them to get the type of education that we value and not, the broader pedagogy of 2,000 years where you actually learn your place in the world, learn about how you fit across all these different cultures. And
Halley.
You called it a democracy. Is this the best plan for a democracy earlier when we talked about it? And this is an oligarchy. This is not a democracy.
Yeah,
so
it's an oligarchy. Basically, because they can create a huge philanthropic organization, they can create their own mini democracy, but it's more of it's more of like I think they see themselves as the benevolent kings, where they get to direct what happens. And it's ridiculous. We're not having a democracy.
But the law allows them to do this with their money, and then they feel like with their money they get a voice to put it where they
get a voice. The way foundations are structured, they get to run the whole thing.
Right.
Yeah.
They decide. So they become their own mini government because they're frustrated with having to talk to everyone who may have a different view. And want different things, or maybe it's like the people that they just don't care about. So,
but your gripe is with the U.S. capitalist society as we see it today.
And also with the philanthropic, this philanthropic notion that somehow because you're a rich white guy, because you made a few billion in your tech company, that you know how to do medicine and education and science and other stuff. Right. And I just don't think that's the case at all. Wow. And that you somehow know what's good for everybody instead of asking people.
Well, I mean, do you really think that these foundations is one person deciding what? I mean, they have leagues of people going out and doing research and really honing in on some of these issues. I mean, it's not just
maybe not.
Really?
I mean, if they find people just like them with the same values and they don't go out and talk to, for example, are they going into inner cities and talking to families about how they need to educate their kids? I doubt it. Mm-hmm. I doubt it a lot.
Well, this is why they solve the problems they solve. They're solving, like, how can I get a cab to take me quickly to another safe, expensive part of town? I'll create Uber. And then, great. How about make something that's useful?
Okay, but, I mean, Bill and Melinda Gates, aren't they... aren't they like vaccinating the world? Isn't that, isn't that a big issue?
They're putting money into certain, for example, medical developments, vaccines, malaria, and all of that's great, but they're putting it into areas that they care about instead of saying, okay, we have this much in taxes. Where's the greatest need for everybody? It's where they perceive the greatest need. And part of that is a lot about ego. It's Tim Draper saying, we are here to educate the best and the brightest to be heroes. Well, okay, so maybe that's a laudable goal, but he kept saying the word hero, and I'm thinking, but hero in your book is the guy who makes $1 billion in this land of Silicon Valley that is otherwise known as a giant casino.
I don't understand that term using heroes and they're like developing heroes or creating heroes. I mean, that seems like, I don't know, something's off with that to me. That doesn't rub me all the right way.
Hey, you guys, what do you think about Common Core?
I don't know that much about it, but I know I do not understand the math.
Halley?
The Common Core program?
Oh, you mean
I don't know that much about it.
That everyone has to take?
Enlighten us, Halley.
Hey,
in about 2 minutes.
Well, I think we have to come back to it.
Can we do this on another show? We have too much fun here.
We do need to talk about education on another show, really. We could do a whole show about it.
Maybe we need a spin-off show, a spin-off education show. And we'll get some experts.
E3?
G3, what?
E3.
E3.
That was a conference before, wasn't it?
Oh, right, gaming. You need to change it to something else.
That was a good conference. All right, tell us we have to stop. We know we have to stop.
We have to stop.
Okay.
We have to stop, folks. Okay. So, it's time to stop. So I'd like to thank Ustream for their Ustreaming services and helping us to record this show. I'd like to thank New Tech and their wonderful TriCaster. It's a great thing. It's a thing of beauty. I love this. You see it here? See it here? All these lights and it's my little, I feel like a pilot in front of this thing. Okay. Thank you, New Tech. I'd like to thank Rebecca Woodcock.
Thank you.
Halley Suitt Tucker.
I just put something about Common Core on our website.
You had to get something else in. And Mary Hodder. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks for being here this week and usually, because you're usually here every week. You guys are so great. And I said guys.
Whoops. That's good.
That's okay.
I'm up for guys.
You don't want gals though.
I hate gals.
Yeah.
Gals sucks.
Gals sucks.
I'll zing you with some gals in some post or something. Okay. All right. What else do I have to do? Do I have to thank anybody else? No, not today. That's okay.
Gals is like broads, okay? Would you
broads?
Call us broad? Would you call any woman a broad?
That's like the old Rat Pack sort of word,
yes,
right?
It's
broads.
So Frank Sinatra, gals.
Yeah.
Gals is just like
Gals,
next version of broad. I'm not into
gals
it.
and dolls.
Yeah, my dad's generation, the broads was still very much alive in that conversation. Eek. Broads, not good. Okay. Anything else? No? Okay.
Go to your dentist.
Okay. So,
Oh, thank
Because
you.
I'm having all these dental problems, and believe me, if you haven't had a checkup, you need to go.
go to your dentist. Hallie's doing
Halley.
Hallie's doing
Jewish
a
mother.
public announcement for good dental hygiene.
I am.
Okay.
Halley is everyone's Jewish mother, right?
Yes. Look at those teeth. What do you think? What do you come into a house with teeth like that? My house? No. You go see your dentist, a nice Jewish boy.
Okay. All right, folks. Step outside of your comfort zone. Go out and do something great. Come back and talk to us. And we'll see you next week. Or probably on a Thursday. Maybe on a Friday, but probably on a Thursday. We'll see you. Bye-bye. Well, I want you to say bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.